They say there's a stretch of highway between the US border and the Canadian north where the road forgets where it's going. Truckers call it the loop. No one can say exactly where it starts or if it ever really ends. But if you ever find yourself driving alone out there and you start seeing the same gas station twice, whatever you do, don't stop to check. Jack Myers had been on the road for 20 years. A long-haul driver, tough as old boots, the kind of man who believed the world still made sense as long as your truck did. He wasn't superstitious. He didn't believe in ghost stories or cosmic nonsense. Just diesel, coffee, and miles. That night, the sky over Michigan was the color of steel. The storm had cleared hours ago, leaving behind a slick black road that reflected the glow of his headlights like a mirror. He was hauling empty pallets north, crossing into Canada to pick up a load of lumber from Thunder Bay. It was a route he'd driven 100 times. Routine, predictable, until it wasn't. At the border crossing, the Canadian guard looked tired, like he'd been standing in that little booth since the last ice age. Jack handed over his ID. "Just pallets," he said, nodding toward his trailer. The guard didn't answer right away. He studied Jack's face like he was trying to remember it. Then, in a quiet voice, he said, "You sure you want to keep driving tonight?" Jack frowned. "Why wouldn't I?" The man hesitated, then shrugged. "Storm's up ahead. Power's been out across half the route. Not a good night for travel." Jack smiled faintly. "When is it ever?" The guard gave a small nod and waved him through. The first hour north of the border was silent, almost unnaturally so. No other trucks, no towns, just forest pressing in on both sides, trees glistening with ice. He tried the radio, but all he got was static. Not even the usual crackle of distant AM channels. Just a low hiss that rose and felt like someone breathing. He turned it off. The silence was worse. By the time the dashboard clock hit 11:40 p.m., Jack's low-fuel light flicked on. He wasn't worried. He remembered a small Esso station about 10 miles up ahead. Sure enough, the faint red glow of its sign appeared through the fog like a promise. The place looked exactly as he remembered: 3 pumps, a tiny convenience store, a soda machine humming outside. There was a single old man behind the glass, reading a newspaper that looked older than both of them. Jack filled up, nodded politely at the man, grabbed a coffee, and got back on the road. Simple, familiar, nothing strange about it. But 30 minutes later, as the road curved through a valley and the fog thickened, the same red glow appeared ahead. He squinted. No, couldn't be. He slowed down. The same Esso station. Same broken light over the pumps. Same old man behind the glass. Jack laughed under his breath. Guess there's more than one out here. He checked his GPS. It said he'd only moved 1.2 miles. That didn't make sense. He'd been driving at least half an hour. He reset the GPS, restarted the truck, and kept driving. Another 30 minutes. The fog got thicker, the world smaller. And then the same gas station again. Same flicker of light. Same newspaper. Same coffee cup sitting by the register. Jack's hands tightened on the wheel. Not funny, he muttered. He drove faster. The trees blurred by like black shadows bending toward him. He switched the radio back on, and this time, the static wasn't random. There was something under it. A rhythm. A whisper. At first it sounded like the wind crawling through the speaker. Then the words became clearer. "Turn back. Please." Jack's breath hitched. The voice, it sounded like his wife. He hit the brakes hard, the truck skidding slightly on the wet pavement. The fog rolled past his windshield in thick, ghostly ribbons. Ahead, something moved. A figure standing dead center in the lane. Jack flicked on his high beams. The light hit, and what he saw wasn't human. The thing had no face, just a blur of skin and shadow where I should have been. It raised one hand, slowly, not waving but pointing back toward his trailer. Jack swallowed hard. He looked into his side mirror and froze. There, standing behind his truck in the red glow of his taillights, was himself. Same jacket, same stance, same terrified face staring back. The other, Jack started walking toward the cab. Jack slammed the pedal. The truck roared forward, tearing through the fog, his heart hammering like a drum. He didn't stop again until the forest turned to open road and the fog thinned enough for him to breathe. His hands shook as he gripped the wheel. "What the hell was that?" he whispered. The dashboard clock blinked 2:47 a.m. He had no idea how long he'd been driving. He didn't know it yet, but Jack had already crossed the line. The road had seen him, and once it does, it never lets go. They say the human mind can only handle so much silence before it starts making sounds on its own. But what Jack heard wasn't in his head. It was outside, and it was moving closer. The road stretched ahead in a perfect straight line, flat, endless, with fog rolling like ocean waves across the surface. Jack kept checking his side mirror. Every few seconds, he'd glance back, expecting to see that other version of himself standing on the asphalt. Nothing, just darkness. He told himself it had to be exhaustion. He hadn't slept in almost 18 hours. Long drives, caffeine, storm stress, it all made sense. But deep down, something didn't add up. He knew the stretch of road. He'd driven it more times than he could count, and yet he couldn't remember a single landmark. No exits, no signs, no other vehicles, just the sound of his own truck and the steady pulse of his heart. When the dashboard clock blinked 2:47 a.m. again, Jack frowned. He'd seen that time before. He was sure of it. He reset the clock manually, rolled it forward 10 minutes just to prove it wasn't stuck. But a few minutes later, it blinked back to 2:47 a.m., and his GPS, which had been tracking his route since Michigan, still said, distance to destination, 372 miles. The same number as before. He muttered under his breath, "All right, enough of this crap." He reached for his phone, dead battery. Charger light off. No power. That's when he noticed something else. The fuel gauge hadn't moved. Not a drop burned, even though he'd been driving for hours. He rolled down the window. The cold hit him like a wall sharp, biting air that smelled of iron and pine. No wind, no animal sounds, just stillness. He slowed the truck to a crawl, scanning the sides of the road for anything, a sign, a house, even a fence. But the trees didn't look right. They weren't moving with the truck. They were repeating the same bent birch tree, the same patch of dead branches, over and over like a bad film loop. Jack's stomach dropped. He gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles went white. "All right," he whispered, "it's a loop. So if it's a loop, I can break it. I just gotta turn around." He pulled off onto the shoulder, turned the wheel hard, and swung the truck around. The headlights swept over the forest. Endless fog, endless trees. He pressed the accelerator and drove the opposite way. 10 minutes, 20, 30, and then, through the mist, the red glow appeared again. The same Esso station, same flickering light, same truck parked out front. Except this time, the store lights were off. Jack parked, leaving the engine idling. He hesitated, then grabbed his flashlight and stepped out. His boots crunched on the frosty ground, each sound swallowed instantly by the fog. The air felt thicker now, like he was walking underwater. He shined a light through the window. The counter was empty, the newspaper gone, but on the wall behind the register, something new was taped up, a photo. It was blurry, old, printed on faded paper. A man standing beside a truck. Jack leaned closer, wiping the glass with his sleeve. His blood went cold. It was him. Same jacket, same truck, same license plate. He stepped back fast, heart pounding. The flashlight beam shook in his hand. Inside, the lights flickered once, and the old man from before appeared behind the counter, staring directly at him. Jack stumbled backward, nearly tripping. The old man didn't move. He just lifted one hand and pointed toward the forest behind the gas station. Jack turned the flashlight in that direction. Through the fog, he saw faint shapes, tire marks leading into the woods, twisting between the trees. He shouldn't have followed them, but part of him, the part that couldn't stand not knowing, forced his feet to move. Each step deeper into the fog felt like walking into another world. The sounds changed. No wind, no insects, just that faint static hum again, like a radio whispering under the ground. The tire tracks stopped suddenly, and there, half buried under snow and moss, was another truck, same model as his. Same dents, same rusted logo on the side. Jack climbed closer, brushing the dirt off the license plate. His heart froze. It was his plate number. He backed away fast, tripping over a root. When he looked up, the old man was standing at the edge of the woods. Not moving, Not breathing, just watching. Jack shouted, "What the hell is this?" But the man didn't answer. He only whispered one word. "Stop." And then he was gone. Jack ran back to his truck, slammed the door, and locked it. He sat there, gasping for breath, staring at the fog outside his windshield. He didn't remember starting the engine. But somehow, the truck was moving again. The trees blurred past. The fog thinned. And up ahead, the SO station appeared again. Only this time, the red lights were out. The pumps were broken, and the glass door was cracked open, swaying gently in the wind. It said the road between worlds doesn't always look like a portal. Sometimes, it looks like the same stretch of asphalt you've driven your whole life. Until you realize the road remembers you. They say isolation plays tricks on the mind. But Jack knew what he was hearing wasn't in his head. The voices weren't whispers of exhaustion. They were coming through the radio. The truck's engine hummed softly as he rolled down the endless road again. The clock still read 2:47 a.m. Outside, the fog pulsed faintly like something alive, thick enough to blur the trees but thin enough to let the shapes inside move when he wasn't looking. Jack hadn't touched the radio since leaving Michigan, but now, without warning, it clicked on by itself. A woman's voice broke through, soft and distant. "You shouldn't have come back." Jack froze. He turned the volume knob down, then back up. The voice was gone, replaced by a faint hum, like breathing through a wire. He switched stations, but every channel was the same. Just static and faint whispers buried inside. "Turn around. He's still there. Don't stop." Jack slammed the radio off, heart pounding. He drove faster. The fog pressed against the windshield like wet cotton. Something was wrong with the light. His headlights seemed weaker, like the darkness was swallowing them whole. And then he saw the road sign ahead. Only one word on it, barely visible through the mist. "Welcome to Ontario." He hit the brakes. He'd crossed into Canada hours ago, apparently. But the border station was gone. No checkpoint, no videos. Just a sign in the middle of nowhere. He stepped out, breath clouding in the frozen air. The snow was falling heavier now, tiny flakes spiraling in silence. When he looked down, his own footprints were already vanishing under it. And beneath the new snow, there were other footprints, leading into the woods. Bare feet. Jack ran back to the truck. He slammed the door, started the engine, and floored it. The road wound ahead, twisting in ways it never had before. The fog seemed alive now, clinging to his windshield in long, reaching tendrils. And through it, he started to see things. Shapes. Faces. Moments from his own life replaying in flashes. His old apartment, his mother's kitchen, a childhood toy scattered across the floor. Each time he blinked, they vanished. He gripped the wheel tighter. "Get me off this road," he muttered. "Get me out." But the GPS had turned itself on again. The voice spoke softly, calm, and mechanical. Recalculating. Distance to destination, 372 miles. The same number. Again, hours passed or minutes. Time didn't matter anymore. At some point, he noticed something ahead, faint lights flickering red and blue. Police. Finally, he pulled over, stumbling out of the truck, waving both arms. Hey, I need help." Two officers stepped out of their cruiser, their faces obscured by the glare of their headlights. Jack hurried toward them. "You gotta help me. I've been driving for hours. I don't know where I am." The taller officer raised his flashlight. "Sir, what's your name?" "Jack Holloway. I'm from Michigan. My truck." The officer exchanged a glance with his partner. Then he said quietly, "Sir, we found your truck 3 days ago, down in a ravine off Highway 41. Driver was deceased." Jack froze. He laughed a short, nervous laugh that didn't sound human. No, I'm right here. I'm talking to you." But the officers' faces were already fading. Their cruiser lights dimmed, swallowed by the fog. The world around him melted back into gray silence. Jack stood in the road, chest heaving. His breath came out in clouds that didn't disappear. They just hung there like the air itself refused to move. He looked down the road again. The fog thinned, and there was the SO station, glowing faintly in the distance. Back where it all started. He whispered, "No, please." But the truck engine behind him started on its own. The radio clicked alive one more time. Destination ahead. They say some roads don't lead anywhere at all. They just keep you driving until you forget why you started. And maybe somewhere between the US and Canada, there's a road that remembers every soul that's ever passed through it. Jack used to think every road had an end, that if you just kept driving long enough, you'd find a town, a sign, a turnoff. But on this road, there was none of that. Just fog, and the feeling that something was waiting for him to stop. He didn't remember getting back into the truck. The door had closed. The headlights were already on, and the dashboard clock, unblinking, still said 2:47 a.m. The road stretched out before him, silver and black, cutting through the frost like a scar. He wasn't sure if he was still alive, but he knew one thing. He couldn't stop now. He pushed the gas pedal down. The fog peeled back just enough for him to see the white lines on the asphalt. And then he saw a green highway sign on the right side of the road. Its lettering flickered in the mist. Mile 372. He squinted. That number again. The same distance the GPS had been showing since the beginning. He slowed down, rolling to a stop beneath. The ground beside the sign looked disturbed. Tire tracks frozen in the ice, faint footprints leading into the ditch. And down there, half hidden under the snow, something metal gleamed in his headlights. He got out, every movement slow, reluctant. The cold bit deep into his skin. As he got closer, the shape became clear. A truck. His truck. The same color, same dents, same broken taillight. And inside a body slumped over the steering wheel. Jack stumbled back, his flashlight trembling. The snow crunched beneath his boots. He circled to the front window, wiped the frost away with his sleeve. The face inside was pale, frozen mouth slightly open. And the eyes, they were his. Jack staggered backward, breath caught in his throat. He turned to run, but the road behind him was gone. Nothing but darkness and fog, rolling and breathing like a living thing. The wind began to whisper, soft at first, then louder, until it formed words. You were supposed to stop. You never did. You kept driving. Jack covered his ears, shouting over the noise. Tell me what you want. The voice came from all around, deep, distorted, echoing through the fog itself. We only remember the ones who never turn back. The headlights flickered. The ground rumbled softly, as if something beneath the asphalt was waking up. The road itself seemed to move, bending, breathing, reshaping into endless turns. Jack fell to his knees, staring at the cracked ice beneath him. Inside those cracks, faint lights glowed like the reflections of other vehicles far below the surface. He leaned closer. He could see them, cars, trucks, endless lines of them frozen in place under the road, headlights glowing dimly. Each one had a driver behind the wheel, each face staring forward, eyes wide open, and every single one of them looked like him. Jack screamed, stumbling back, slipping on the ice. When he stood again, the fog began to part, revealing the Esso station in the distance. It flickered between two versions, old and new, dark and lit, reality and memory. He walked toward it like a sleepwalker. The glass doors opened on their own, and the bell above the frame jingled faintly. Inside, everything was exactly as it had been the first time. The old man behind the counter. The same black cap. The same calm eyes. Jack's voice cracked. What is this place? The old man tilted his head. The end of the road, son. Jack shook his head. No, there's no end. It just keeps going. Only for the ones who won't let go. The old man pointed at the clock on the wall. 2:47 a.m. That's the moment you died. Right here. You were crossing the border in the storm. Your truck hit the ice, rolled down the hill. They found you at mile 372. Jack stared at him, eyes filling with tears. I can't be dead. I've been driving for hours. I can feel it. The old man's expression softened. That's the problem, isn't it? Some souls keep driving long after the road runs out. Jack looked down at his hands, frost spreading up his skin like veins of ice. His reflection in the counter glass flickered between living and dead. When he blinked, the old man was gone. The lights dimmed. The world outside turned black. He walked out to the road again. The fog rose up to meet him, swallowing the sky. And then silence. Only the hum of the engine and the faint static of the radio. The GPS lit up one last time. Distance to destination, 372 miles. Jack smiled faintly, a tear freezing on his cheek. He put the truck in gear and started driving again. Into the fog. Into forever. They say if you ever find yourself on Highway 41 near the border, and you see an old Esso station glowing red in the fog, don't stop. Don't look at the clock. And whatever you do, don't follow the tire tracks into the woods. Because some roads don't take you home. They take you back. Na heitor, cá outro, cinematique. If you're still listening, it means you made it to the end of the road. But remember, endings are only for the living. The rest of us just keep driving. Would you dare drive that road alone at night? Hit subscribe if you think you'd make it farther than Jack Holloway.